God. Oh God.
We've all made mistakes before, as the ancient and defunct language of Latin notes, errare humanum est, or to err is human. Sometimes those mistakes have consequences just for us, but other times those consequences can also apply to others around us. Now, most of the time these consequences are easily fixed and they don't do much damage at all, but for some people in the past and for some military leaders in the past, that's not the case. In fact, their mistakes have led to the deaths of hundreds and even thousands. In this series of Avanexplains, we take a look at the military mishaps, battle blunders, and Operation Oopsies in the Special Area curriculum. Our first episode takes us into the Romanian countryside where, in 1788, a curious yet rather hilarious event occurred on a cool September night. That's right, for the first episode of the series, we're travelling to uncover the mistakes behind the Battle of Karansebes. The year is 1788. The date is the 21st of September. And night has fallen across Europe. Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire are at war with one another. Why they are at war? Don't ask me. Wars at this stage are pretty common. The Austrian army, comprised of some 100,000 troops from modern-day Croatia, Austria, Italy, and Serbia, is setting up camp in the Romanian town of Karansebes. Romania at this time belonged to the empire, and it's a key entry point into Europe for the Ottoman army. They're waiting for that Ottoman army to attack the town because it is a key point in the war, and if they can manage to sneak into Europe, they're going to have quite a fair bit of a nice conquering ahead of them. On the night of the 21st, some hussars, which are light cavalry, scout across the Timis River for possible Ottoman troops or encampments. They don't encounter the enemy, but instead some Romani people, or gypsies as they are rather derogatorily called both back then and now, are found by the hussars. These Romani people are also setting up camp for the night, and they offer the hussars some alcohol in the form of schnapps. The horsemen, like any self-minding soldier of the day, buy quite a fair bit of the alcohol and begin drinking the night away. Soon afterwards, a group of Austrian infantry scouting the area encounter the drunk hussars, asking them for some booze too. The alcohol is denied, and soon enough, a fight ensues amongst the two groups. A shot is fired out in the darkness, and in the panic of the brawl, someone shouts, "Turci, Turci," or "Turks, Turks." The hussars, drunk and frightened, gallop back to Karansebes as fast as they can, with the infantry in quick pursuit, because they believe that they're under attack from the Ottoman army, when in reality they're still firing at their own men. Now, there are still shots ringing out in the darkness, and as this confused group nears the town itself, the rest of the army is awoken with the sheer amount of panic and confusion in the air. In an effort to stop the chaos, some Austrian soldiers shout, "Halt!" in their native German language, which sounds like "Halte," if I'm not mistaken. But to the multilingual soldiers, it sounds more like Allah, the Islamic god and battle cry of their Ottoman counterparts. Soon, the chaos grows out of control, as a corps commander in charge of artillery on a nearby hill orders fire on the town, believing that the Ottoman attack is actually occurring right now. In the confusion, the entire army retreats from the town, still shooting shadows of who they believe are the Turks, but are instead their fellow soldiers. By morning, the entire army has left the town of Karansebes, and the Turks enter the town 2 days later to find it empty, yet ravaged with wounded and dead. Death toll estimates vary for this account, but some believe that almost 500 soldiers died, with more than 1,200 wounded in the course of the night. Perhaps even more tragic, or conspicuous, however, is the fact that the chest containing the entire army's payroll, their salary, is lost. something that not even the presence of Emperor Joseph II could heal. That's right, the actual Emperor of Austria himself was present during this battle. In fact, sources claim he was hit off his horse into a nearby creek as a result of the chaos. The Battle of Karansebes then, aside from being considered as the worst friendly fire incident in military history, contains some important lessons for military planners then and now. So, it's off to the lesson board of history for us. Lesson number 1. Firstly, ensure that your troops actually understand one another. Many of the translation issues that occurred during the battle only served to escalate the panic. The Austrian army was made up of literally dozens of ethnicities, all speaking different dialects of different tongues. Had they been trained or at least taught some basic Austrian or German, apologies, at the time, it would have been a much easier battle for them in the sense that they would have understood what the officers were trying to say. Secondly, make sure that your troops have a clear discipline when it comes to alcohol. Later army planners in Europe would instigate regulations about the consumption of alcohol, and in many armies, alcohol would be regulated as rations onto the actual battlefield rather than as a secondary commodity, just like the Hussars found it. Finally, make sure that your armies actually know what to do when they encounter civilians. Most troops in Europe after this point in time will avoid civilian interaction altogether if possible, but if they do encounter civilians, they might try and get information from them about where the enemy are. So there are quite a few lessons here within the Battle of Karansebes. It's not that funny of an event, but it is something that makes you really question what on earth ensued that night. And it really is one of the mistakes in history that we can sort of forgive, but sort of can't as well, because there were a lot of factors within it that could have easily been solved had the army been much more effective as a fighting force and as an actual homogeneous unit. And that's it for this week's episode, scholars. Tune in next week where we move from Europe to down under as we touch on an even more hilarious mistake when a couple of soldiers fired not on their own men, but on a couple of birds. See you then, scholars.